Hey everybody, it's Rob, otherwise known as EaglesFan4Life17 from YouTube here, and welcome to another episode of the Top 3 where we discuss 3 examples from a specific sports category. One of the most important aspects of a football team is the coaches. If you have good coaching, then you have a good chance of winning games. But if the coaches are bad, then the chances are the team won't perform well. A few times you will get coaches and assistant coaches that once played for the Eagles, and today we will be talking about the top 3 coaches on the Eagles that once played for a team since I have been a fan of the Eagles. While rare, if there are any current coaches on your team that once played for your team, please comment on it in the comment section below. Alright, let's get into it. 1999 was a season where the Eagles were reinvented. After a decade where the Eagles were just alright, owner Jeffrey Lurie decided to hire former Packers quarterbacks and tight ends coach Andy Reid to be the Eagles' new head coach. The Eagles would also draft Donovan McNabb out of Syracuse, but most sports fans know that. What they probably didn't know was the fact that Andy Reid would also bring in the former Brett Favre backup, Doug Peterson, to start off the 1999 season as a stopgap quarterback. Doug Peterson would start 9 games and only win 2, throwing for 1,276 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. So I think that we can all come out and admit that Doug Peterson would probably be a pretty terrible quarterback. Honestly, the best game he had all season and likely his career was a Week 6 game at Soldier Field against the Bears, where he threw for 200 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 57-yarder to Dietrich Gels in a 20-16 win against a team with a rookie quarterback in Cade McNown. Also, by the way, this was also the Eagles' very first win ever in team history at Soldier Field. Doug Peterson would leave Philly after 1 year, and then he would go on to back up Tim Couch in Cleveland and then go back to Green Bay to back up Brett Favre again. After retiring in 2005, Peterson would be the head coach at Calvary Baptist Academy. Then in 2009, he would become the quality control coach for the Eagles, and in 2011, the quarterbacks coach. So he probably wasn't a good quarterbacks coach, very average. So when Andy Reid was fired in 2013, Doug Peterson would follow him to Kansas City to become the offensive coordinator there, and Doug really did help reinvent Alex Smith's career. After Chip Kelly was fired from the Eagles, Doug would be hired as the Eagles head coach to the dismay of many Eagles fans that wanted the team to sign either Adam Gase or Hugh Jackson. However, Doug Peterson would end up being the best head coaching candidate of the 2016 offseason, as he is the only one that is currently the head coach of the team that signed him, and he is the only one with a playoff win and is finally the only one with a Super Bowl victory. Doug Peterson's strength is adapting game plans and believing in his players to make a play when other coaches might not. Of course, we will see a lot of negative aspects of the Andy Reid years, but we will have that any day as long as Chip Kelly doesn't come back. The second former Eagle turned coach was more of a fan favorite than Peterson was, and this guy happens to be the former South Carolina Gamecock, Deuce Staley. Deuce was drafted to the Eagles in 1997, where he made almost an immediate impact in 1998 by rushing for over 1,000 yards and being the MVP of an offense that year and the next year as well. His 2000 and 2001 campaigns were both cut short due to injury, but he would come back with a vengeance in 2002, where he ran for over 1,000 yards once again. But that was his last season where he was actually effective, as in 2003, he would join the three-headed monster tandem of Brian Westbrook and Correll Buckhalter and would leave the Eagles in the 2004 offseason because of his contract dispute and join the other team from Pennsylvania, the Steelers, where he would be a part of that 2005 Super Bowl winning team. But he wasn't as effective as he was in Philly. Deuce Staley would replace Doug Peterson as the offensive quality control coach in 2011, and then when Chip Kelly became the head coach, Deuce would be promoted to the running backs coach, where he taught the then running back LaShawn McCoy how to run up the gut, and also was the running backs coach when McCoy became the rushing champ. Deuce Staley continues to be the running backs coach, but he also carries the label of assistant head coach because at how good he has been at getting all that he can out of lesser talented running backs, as like Wendell Smallwood, as like Josh Adams. Many were hoping that Deuce would become the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, but I think that Deuce will eventually get his chance. When Deuce Staley was a player, he was such a fan favorite that whenever he had a big run, the crowd would yell, "Deuce!" And I remember during the 2000 season, he played in a game in Week 1 at the Old Texas Stadium, a game nicknamed the Pickle Juice game, because he got so hot that the players had to drink pickle juice to not get dehydrated. I mean, it was 110 degrees out there on that field down there, where Deuce Staley would run for 200 yards and have 262 total yards in the game, which I believe is a record for him and a career high for him. Oh, and by the way, the Eagles would win 41-14 in what ended up being one of Troy Aikman's final games with the Dallas Cowboys. With that said, Deuce Staley truly embodies the mentality of the city of Philadelphia, not only as a Super Bowl winning assistant coach, but also as a player. And the final current Eagles assistant coach that played for the Eagles that we are going to talk about is probably one of the biggest statistical marvels in NFL history. That being assistant tight ends coach Mike Bartram. Bartram played for the Chiefs, Packers, and Patriots from 1993 all the way to 99. However, in 2000, he would be signed to the Eagles where he would serve as the team's long snapper. It is important to have a good long snapper because a bad one could lead to balls going over the heads of punters or Mr. Botched field goals. This wouldn't be a problem for the one-time Pro Bowler Mike Bartram, who would long snap a ball into a mailbox or many yards away and could also long snap a ball into a moving car. I mean, there really isn't much to do when you aren't snapping a ball for punts and field goal kicks. He did make a kickoff in reserve of David Akers, but he wasn't good enough to quit his day job. However, one of the greatest stats that Mike Bartram has is the fact that he was also the number 3 tight end on jumbo and goal line sets in his whole career, and he would record 11 total receptions, but he would catch 6 touchdowns on those 11 passes. So this means that over half of the passes he caught would go for touchdowns. I remember once against the Lions in 2004, Bartram would catch a touchdown pass from Donovan McNabb and would get penalized because of a touchdown celebration that involved L.J. Smith standing behind him and hiking the ball backwards because that was his job, being a long snapper. Mike Bartram would retire 11 games into the 2006 season after being replaced by John Dorenbos, but that isn't anything to be ashamed about because he had a good career being a reliable long snapper. In 2019, Mike Bartram would be signed as the Eagles' assistant tight ends coach, and he should be commended because Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert had a very good season, being the number 1 and number 2 favorite targets for quarterback Carson Wentz. I think we should all want Mike Bartram to stay for longer. Throughout his years, though, he will always be remembered for being one of the most reliable long snappers in the league. Thank you all for watching this episode of the Top 3. If you know any former players that became coaches for your team, please talk about them in the comment section below. Also, if you have a category for a future video, please also tell us what you would like to see in the comment section. And thanks. Have a good day. Don't forget to hit that like button.